In today's video, I want to share my practical approach on lighting and show you how I shot these images. So hi everyone, this is Jiggie, a portrait and wedding photographer from the Philippines, and welcome to the channel. So before anything else, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel and would want to learn more about off-camera flash photography or maybe just photography in general, then this channel is for you. So you might want to consider subscribing, and while you're at it, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to see some of my images or more of my images, you could always find me on Instagram. It's at Jiggie Alejandrino. Now, this particular video is all about practical lighting. So that's a dead giveaway already on this particular approach of lighting. Whenever I am lighting, I don't like my light to be seen. In other words, I want it to blend in with the background, especially when I'm shooting with ambient light. And to put it in proper context, in the course of this video, I will be referring to my ambient light and artificial light. Ambient light means a light that's in existence in the scene when I am shooting, and my artificial light is any light that I will introduce. In this case, I will be using a couple of LED lights. Now, these are the LED lights that I am using. They're both from Nanlite, the Forza 60B and the Forza 150B, with a projection mount here, and this one's a Lantern Forza 60. Now, basically, I decided to use continuous light for this particular shoot because we are shooting indoor, and the place that we were shooting in had a lot of beautiful existing ambient light. However, I also wanted to put in this concept of focusing by light. In other words, I wanted my light focused on them for your eyes to be drawn to them. So I used my artificial light to do that. So let me show you some examples. As I said earlier, this place already had beautiful existing ambient light, and that's also one of the reasons on why I decided to use the Forza B series, the 60B and the 150B, because they are both bicolor, which you will see later. So this was shot with existing ambient light. You could see how beautiful the light is already. However, what I did was I positioned my ambient light here, since this ambient light would have directional light going down, which wouldn't have been flattering to my subjects. I had my Forza 150B here with my lantern diffuser just to give a nice even soft light on them. However, since it was directional, I was still able to get a bit of contrast. What I did was I underexposed the existing ambient light slightly and had my artificial light on proper exposure. So this was properly exposed, creating a very nice contrast but very soft on them, very soft light. And I had my projection mount pointed towards the background to create a lot of pattern. The beautiful thing about those projection mounts is that you can create patterns and you can actually adjust the hardness or softness of the pattern that they are creating. In this case, I decided I wanted it soft, and by doing that, I was able to create a lot of depth in the image, as you can see here in the final image. And here's another example. You could see the patterns being projected here on the side, and this is the light coming from the 150B. And this is the contrast that I was telling you about, because you always want to have shadows and highlights to create that 3D look in your images. So now, here's another image shot with existing ambient light. Beautiful lighting, however flat. So this is what I decided to do. Again, I used my Nanlite Forza 150B with a lantern modifier to serve as my main light on them. And I had my projection mount, but this time I had the projection mount relatively stronger, because I wanted to create a very dramatic image. From this particular scene, I was able to shoot an image like this. So moving on, this is where I was telling you that I do love these continuous lights because of their capability of being able to dial in the correct color temperature that you wanted. The existing ambient light that I had here was more in the tungsten color, and tungsten color is also bulb dependent. So sometimes it's at 2700 Kelvin, sometimes 3200, sometimes 4000 Kelvin. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because you've got tungsten light, it's automatic that it's that Kelvin rating. And that's a beautiful thing again about these lights, because I can dial it in by sight. In other words, I will change the color temperature of the light to make sure that it matches that of existing ambient light. And that's exactly what I did here. And I had this light stronger than these lights. So I underexposed the scene, and again, I used this one, just one Nanlite Forza 150B as my main light, and this is the final image. And I purposely set my balance to a warmer tone because that is the mood that I wanted to get in this particular layout. Next, I used my projection mount here. Unfortunately, you can't see it. It is actually somewhere here. And what I did was I wanted to shoot the reflection of the couple right here. However, you could see here in the behind the scenes photo that the entire scene was properly lit and I wanted a bit of drama to it. So I had my light focus on their reflection and not on them. And this is the final output of that particular scene. The ability to have artificial light that you can control to focus the light on your subjects, such as what I did here. I am not talking about physically focusing the light, but rather I am referring to the brightest part of the image being the subjects all the time, therefore focusing your viewers' attention to that particular area of the image that you want them to look at. So that's exactly what I did here. That's the concept of focusing by light. I had my light directed towards the mirror, which now illuminated them. And then afterwards, I decided to use a little bit of foreground, use some of the doors, and still use the same principle. You could see actually there's a spill of light here on the shoulder of the groom, which was basically some light that we weren't able to control anymore, giving this beautiful rim light here. So once again, I brought out my lantern softbox. Again, it's a beautiful small softbox that's very light, that gives beautiful soft light. And I use it as a main light right here. And the reason being, I had some light coming from here. And once again, I dialed the light to match the color of the existing ambient light. And I just wanted to have one directional light towards the side of the subject. And this is the final output here. Now, the color temperature of my images, I play around with white balance, but the most important thing is that my artificial light matches the color of my existing ambient light, so that when I shift my white balance to make it cooler or warmer, all the lights would change, giving a seamless look to the image. And finally, once again, I used my Forza 150B here, but this time I changed the color to a warmer tone because the lights coming from these bulbs were warm. So I had it again coming from this direction because I wanted the light to look unseen. Now, using a higher angle, I was able to bring in this chandelier plus these flowers to create this image, giving the illusion that the light was coming from this chandelier. So that's a lighting concept that I use all the time. In other words, I want my light to remain unseen, so it's important for me to have the correct color temperature, and at the same time, the direction of my light should always match the direction of my existing ambient light. And let me show you once again. You could see here in this image, it looked very natural. It blended perfectly with the existing ambient light. Now with this image, of course, I decided I just wanted to overpower the existing ambient light and create my own light. This particular image gave you the impression that the light was coming from these light bulbs. So with this image too, this image looked as if the light was just coming from this natural window light coming from here. This image gave the impression that the light was coming from this chandelier. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, click that notification bell. Now, if you want to see more of my images, you could always find me on Instagram. It's at Jiggie Alejandrino. Okay, till the next video.